just let you hear the sound of thunder rolling over my house. This is a bass that I particularly find fascinating because you can see in its associations that it is connected to what is in fact the personality crystal itself. Obviously, this integrative bass is, the whole process of this is where the personality crystal is oriented. Remember this language of these two very specific keynotes relative to bass. One is orientation, the other is position. Position is something that we can understand in our box configuration that I just went by to get to this one. That is, we can see its relationship, where it is positioned in relationship to the other bases. But it is this orientation, and this orientation is something that, is a very deep area to get into. And the personality crystal, what it's really tuned to is this evolutionary process. I mean, that is, its key. I do love these glyphs, by the way. They've always been rather magical for me. And one of the things about them is this, the presence of these PowerPoints. And there's an ancient tradition in the development of the history of languages of the use of PowerPoints which become accents in one way or another. But I don't want to get into a deep analysis of glyphs. I'll save that for some kind of bizarre mystical event. But what I want you to see is I want you to see these 3 points. That is, this is what personality is always trying to deal with. That is, personality is always trying to find its place within a deep complexity. And so many of the things that personality will always seek, is that it is always seeking some kind of triangle. It's interesting because earlier we were talking about the Chinese elements, and have you ever seen stupas? Stupas are fascinating things. They're a construct, they're a physical thing, sort of like a totem. You see them in many parts of Asia, and they are built on the 5 elemental shapes. And one of the key shapes in all of that is the triangle. The triangle that is also a pyramid, that is many, many other things. It's something to grasp that triangulation is the whole theme of the personality. Do you know this term, triangulation? When you try to figure out where something is, everything about the personality is, in a sense, trying to integrate into the Maya. I mean, it's one of our dilemmas of the personality. The orientation of the personality is to lose itself in the Maya. I mean, think about that, because it's something really to grasp about why we have a mind that rules our lives instead of a mind that is entertaining. It is the personality's orientation. They are oriented to this evolutionary process, and they are deeply connected to the way in which the Maya operates. If we go back for a moment, let's look at it in its place. It has its position. And let's think about it first of all as what meets in evolution. That is, I want you to begin to, work with these images. What meets in evolution? What meets in evolution is humanity and civilization. They come together. This is the formula of evolution. This is what evolution is about. In other words, that evolution is not about what an evolutionary biologist would say. An evolutionary biologist would say that evolution is about the creation in that sense and transformation of all forms, all living forms, all inanimate forms. It is a vast, slow transformation and of changes that take place through mutation and through the interference of this and that and blah, 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 and all the things that they can talk about, because there's myriad things they could say. And yet one of the things that we're looking at when we're looking at base is, don't forget something about, we're looking at a crystal. We're looking at a consciousness crystal. We're looking at the base of a consciousness crystal. And everything about that consciousness crystal is that crystal is there to release a frequency that can either ensure the proper form or provide the potential of self-reflected cognition. That's what the crystal is for. The design crystal maintains with its intelligence the form so it can give the passenger, the personality, the opportunity to experience self-reflected consciousness. The whole theme of evolution isn't locked into the evolution of the planet in terms of the crystal. For the crystal, evolution is humanity and civilization and their evolution, because it's about consciousness. The vast evolutionary program is at work. But you have to see that in terms of our specific consciousness, our personal consciousness, in terms of the way in which this Maya works, that evolution is deeply connected and operates through us. It operates through us, and it operates through us and through the way in which our infrastructure for life evolves, the civilization. And it is only when those two come together that you really have the potential for what is, the great victory of the process. Mind. Mind. Interesting that mind never has a direct connection to individuality. Do you see it? Think about what that means. Mind never has a direct connection to individuality. I spend just about every day of my life, teaching people how to make decisions as themselves so that they can live out their unique individuality. And that the only way you can do that is to do what? Bypass mind. You see, there's no direct connection. There isn't. From the rave psychology perspective, to try to explain that is not an easy thing to do. But if you look at the way that base is oriented, it's like, duh. Mind, it's not easy for mind to get a handle around that. It doesn't. It's why we have this great dilemma. What to do with it? Mind. Great dilemma. It's the distortion in life. It gets in the way of everything. It messes up the whole process. It is mind that denies individuality. After all, what is conditioning mind in terms of the orientation? Homogenization. Humanity as a homogenized species. Civilization as a homogenized construct. There is no individuality there. There is the great collective mind. There is the presence of intelligence. But individuality? And of course I'm deconstructing. Please understand, we can't separate any of these things from each other. It all ends up synthesized, quantumized into the illusion. And so you think that you have an individual mind, as your mind is deciding what to do for you in your life based on you being conditioned. Well. But it's not the true individuality of mind. You see, in order to achieve that, they have to come together in the I think, in the presence of the I think. Oh, the magic that's possible. You see, this is the whole business in rave psychology about training the passenger. Training the passenger in the way to think about their thinking, to think about their being, to think about their seeing. It's where it all meets. Was it Descartes? I think, therefore I am, something like that. It's where it meets. But when you go back to the mechanics, when you go back to the positions, you see the dilemma right away. Mind has no problem connecting to ego. Oh boy, do they work on each other. And mind absolutely must have its connection to the body and its genetics. But over here, uniqueness. So when we're thinking about this particular base, I don't want you to think about the personal mind. Because you can't. You can't. There might be an impression that homogenization is the byproduct of the failure of human consciousness. And of course that would be a terrible lie. Homogenization is human consciousness. It is. Again, it is here in the mechanics to see. You see, the bodies can be unique, so we have to have our unique genetics, so we have these individual bodies and they can look different from each other, But mine, no. So it's not personal. Which means that it is deeply influenced by the experience of humanity and its environment. Its environment. So what we have is this homogenized mind, which has homogenized roles. So that we end up in the situation where, in this time where the mechanics are available, that we see what the struggle is. We see clearly the struggle. We have the technique. Because being the body, which is the key in human design, is connected directly to both. And how nicely it steps beside this. This diagram, I love it, um, these triangles, all the various possibilities that are in there, the way in which, the positions say everything. These positions are carried throughout every level of life. They are. There is within us as a construct barriers in the way in which information moves that cuts our mind off from its individuality. That we have to find it another way. That we find it through our design. We find it through our being. And then to think about what we carry, after all. Our personalities. Each carrying this eternal position. This eternal orientation. And when you look at your base, look at it positionally. It will tell you a lot about yourself. When I wrote the first book in design, and there was an appendix at the back, and I tried to show how you could do analysis with this level of the knowledge. It's very funny. I wrote that in 1989, and I can remember. I can remember people having to deal with that, and they couldn't make heads or tails of it. It really is a way, one of many, many ways that exist in the knowledge, to see relationships within beings and relationships to others. Think about what happens if you have, you have 4 people, and they're each carrying the corner bases, and they're operating correctly, and they come to meet and to sit around a table. Now, where do you think they're going to sit? These are patterns. And they're patterns that are inherent within us. See, we never really get to see the mechanical beauty because humanity is so chaotic. There's always people sitting in the wrong place. Oh, I know. You meet them often in life. They're sitting in the wrong place. They walked in at the wrong time. They open their mouths at the wrong time. It goes on and on and on and on. But you see, when you're operating correctly, your personality, remember, I'm not talking about your body. Your personality has a position. This goes back to the very basis of your consciousness. The root of your passenger consciousness, your witness consciousness. You have a position. In the same way that politicians have a position. They take a political position on this thing or that thing. This isn't a place. This is a position. It is an orientation. The closer you come to freeing your mind from the constraints of looking after your life, the more you begin to see your mind display its position and orientation. It does. History. I love history. And then you realize that it's a homogenized lie. It's basically a homogenized lie. You see, because it is it is what the non-individual mind needs to remember. What the homogenized mind needs to remember. The deepest thing to understand about the program is that homogenization is built into it, and it is correct. I mean, don't ever misunderstand that. It really is. I mean, yes, I rail against it, and I turn it into a nasty big brother, and I try to illustrate the tentacles of the program, and I insinuate that the not self-homogenized world is a terrible thing, and blah blah blah, and all of that. Well, yeah, but that's only because we have the ability to escape it. But it's never going to be everybody has the ability to escape it. It can't be. It would be a disaster. There would be no future. There would be no future. The mind of the conscious rave penta will be a homogenized mind in a way that we don't understand, in a way that is correct. The melding of consciousness. I mean, this is the true collective mind. It is what the program wants. I mean, individuality. This is a possibility. It's always just a possibility when it comes to mind. Just. Here is our opportunity. So don't take this as something that is personal. Gravity, memory, taste, love, light. It's kind of sweet, no? You notice they're in fives. We had our 5 discussion this morning. In the personality, I had a rap of mine, a poetic of mine, that has the line that light ain't heavy. This is what the orientation is of mind. And this is what it is here to integrate to. It is here to accept, first of all, what it means to appear to operate out of something. I mean, everything about the nature of gravity, that is, if things are not held together, they fall apart. Things must be held together. I don't want you to think about this as gravity in the gravitational sense. I really don't. The better word for all of this would be glue. Evolution is glue, and glue is memory, because it's really glue rather than our understanding of gravity. But it is something that has to be seen in that context to grasp that it is mind that pulls things to it. And it pulls things to it, and it holds it. And in pulling it to it, this is the way it evolves. And in holding it to it, this is the way it retains. I mean, this is mind. And what is so interesting about mind is that mind is deeply, deeply, deeply judgmental. Judgmental. Taste. Whenever you see taste as a keynote anywhere, it always leads to one thing and one thing only. Judgment, discernment. This is a mind, the collective mind is oriented to judge. Oh, do you smell a problem there? The collective mind. It is here to judge. That's its orientation. And what that means is it's here to choose. When you judge, you choose. It's here to choose. And it chooses based on its memory. And its memory is what it has pulled to it. That does not mean that it has pulled everything to it, and thus its limitation. It does not mean that what it holds to, that it has access to, that is a limitation. And ultimately it does not mean that what it decides or chooses or discerns is in any way correct. But it is mind. Oh, and then there's love. And love is the greatest judgment of all, isn't it? It's the incredible this or that. She loves me not. Do I or don't I? Will I or won't I? You cannot have any aspect of the progression of this program without reproduction. And it can never be free from mind. Sex is in being. But love, this is a totally different orientation. And it is in an orientation in that in absolute judgment comes absolute bliss. I'll let you think about that one. And that love is light. Well, the mind is nothing but light. What I mean is that everything about the integrative potential of mind is so that it can define its role. That mind, I'm not talking about personal mind, the collective mind needs a role, is seeking a role. That seeking, this is the light. It's the light at the end of the tunnel. It is the evolutionary hurrah. Please grasp that. The way in which this is written out, I wrote that in 1989, and in fact the original was written in 88, the hand version, and I would never express it all this way now. It was very poetic then. It was like the same language of the Revi Ching. It was not deeply technical. These keys cannot be taken at face value. They cannot. I can only take you to what it is that I understand of them when I put them down in that sense. I mean, to grasp that. Everything about evolution is to get to its end. I mean, that's what it's all about. Where's the prize? Where is it finally? Where is this going to take us all to? the completion of it all. I mean, if we are evolving, then what are we evolving into? And this is the mind probing, longing, yearning. And out of this homogenized longing and yearning, we get all of our spirituality. I mean, all of it. It's caught up in being human. It's part of evolution. It's the ring past knot. It's what it is. It's the place where you cannot go. But, what to do? We're pointed in that direction, oriented in that direction. See, evolution in this context is understanding that in the way in which the program deals with the totality, that it is the evolution of mind itself that's the point. It is not the quality of unique mind. Has nothing to do with that. Nor the combination of unique mind and unique form. After all, we're deconstructing. We're only seeing things as they stand alone, and they have never stood alone. I mean, they've never stood alone. And when you look at it this way, you have to, take that into consideration. It's not like this integrative evolutionary aspect is really disconnected from individuality. It's not. But we can see through the pathways that there is a dilemma, that there is a difference. When we take this on its own, only on its own, we see that evolution is not about making better and better bodies. Not from this perspective. It is this transition and transformation and mutation of mind. And everything about it, everything about mind, comes back to memory. Memory for me is, I have to do this. I will do it. I don't want to go there. I don't know. Maybe sometime next semester, if I have a couple of slots available, I'll go through the human memory circuit, because I realize the deeper you go into any of these investigations, there are things that you simply grasp. My work with left-right cognition, it is so obvious that it's all about memory. I mean, it's all about memory. What do you remember? If you're dealing with somebody who is cognitive left and is strategic, they're going to remember only what's essential in order to maintain their agenda in life, whatever that agenda happens to be. If you're dealing with right cognitive, the potential is to remember everything that they have taken in and yet have no agenda and therefore no recognition of whether they've taken it in or not. But it is all, in the end, about memory. It's like those, they're usually awful, these dramas where somebody suddenly gets amnesia. And, they're basically, their whole life everything falls apart. Everything falls apart. They don't know how to do anything. They don't know who anybody is. The whole thing has to be rebuilt. How quickly, our sophistication falls apart the moment that we are denied memory, I mean, after all, one of the great horror stories of the Uranian age, when we have all of these human beings living so long, is, we have the disease of Alzheimer's. And you can just see that, all of these memories just being shut off. Bang! They're gone. They're gone. A friend of mine whose mother has just entered into the early stages of dementia. And obviously these things are very sad. And he goes to visit her, and she says to him, "I don't like this new apartment." And he says to her, "Ma, you've been here for 8 years, and it's all gone. I mean, it's all gone. And what is our lives without memory? Is there a life without memory? I mean, to wake up in the morning and you suddenly don't have any friends, any parents, any children, any purpose." We're not talking about a little thing here. Gravity and memory. Glue. This is the magic that is there in mind. This is the cornerstone of evolution. The glue. To hold it together and hold on to it. It is that memory that defines everything. Look at our species. What makes us so different? It's the memory. That's what makes us so different. Not only do we have memory, but the byproduct of humanity and civilization together is that memory can be concretized and stored and saved outside of the body. History books, old films, you name it. And look at what happens to our children. I mean, I watch my children in relationship to technology as they've come into the world. And I have children that span about 22 years, from the youngest to the oldest. And, the youngest is already at a technological point that the eldest didn't come to until it was a late teenager. And this is a child that's, 8 years old. And why? We've got all this stored memory. And we can share it. I mean, we share it in the illusion. We share it in the I think. We share it in the way in which, as all of this works, we communicate with each other and communicate to our young. And they don't have to learn it all over again. They get all of our experience until we have this incredible, speeded up, all memory. It's all about memory. You see, the future, the advent of the conscious rave. Here we're going to see memory resource in an entity that we cannot imagine. Oh, is evolution ever going to fulfill itself? And individuality will no longer be personal, but it'll be related to the penta itself. Won't have anything to do with the individual being. Again, this gap, well, not a gap, but this lack of direct positioning to each other. But the right cognitive is nothing but glue, super glue, grabbing everything, holding everything. And holding everything together in what is in fact a collective mind, or what becomes one. I mean, the 5 bases working through a penta, obviously we are talking about things that are made for each other. The way we are organized in our unconscious pentas, through base alignments. Mind. See, we tend to think of mind as the work we do when we're working with memory. And by the way, when I say memory, I don't mean last year. I mean 3 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago. I'm talking about, the constant taking in and controlling of data as it flows in, and what we will have access to and what we will not have access to, and what gets held on to and what does not get held on to. This defines mind. And by the way, mind, by its very position, is not interested in holding on to uniqueness. Funny enough, this is the way every child is raised. We are raised with a collective homogenized process. We are raised by the memories of our parents, who are raised by the memories of their parents, who are raised by the memories of theirs. This is mind. Storage. We're not talking about its display, inner or outer. Again, we get to see that when we enter into the synthesis, that we see it all as it functions together. No, this is just what mind is. It is the evolution of storage. Doesn't sound very romantic, I know. But oh boy, is that ever something. This story, it's everything. The difference between a good mind and a bad mind, a strong mind and a weak mind. And it's all homogenized. All of it. See, we are instruments of the transformation of the planet as we live, and at the same time, through serendipity, we are also in conflict with it. It is the great irony of the way things work. I mean, each and every one of us is a filter of the infrastructure through our bases, in conjunction with everyone else's. And yet at the same time, we have the potential not to be controlled by our programming. I mean, this is a mutation that is not embraced by the program. We are not embraced by the program. We're not. Doesn't really get it. For years and years and years, I've been talking about how human design is all about one person at a time. One person at a time. See, this is all about human design is over here. And it says, excuse me, we have a real problem here, is that we have to get out this uniqueness. It is part of what it is all about. And of course, it is deeply related not to humanity and civilization, but to the very earth itself. Our unique expression is essential for us. This is the opportunity that we have when our species, as it is coming to an end, That now is the time for us to be able to fulfill what is the potential of this particular moment. The moment that we shift, the moment that we go to 2027, the moment that the wheel turns, the moment that the last of those that have been born before the change fade, that window of opportunity will close, because movement under the influence of being in the synthesis will no longer be connected to the unique human experience. It won't. It is a struggle, but it is possible. We cannot overturn it. It's why I've never been messianic, I understand the rules. They're very clear. The vast majority of humanity is going to just keep moving towards its destiny, homogenized in its perspective. It is perhaps the greatest cruelty of the program, that so many are sacrificed for a future they will not participate in. I don't mind being part of the conveyor belt that moves all of this into some future. But I will take my stand to fulfill my possibility now. See, all of this comes back to one of the great dilemmas in our work. How do you transform mind? How do you heal mind? How do you get mind to stop being so connected to the homogenized that it's built for? What do you think mind is gluing to itself every day? It glues the homogenized world it's taking in. Its memories are homogenized moments. It's not such an easy thing. It's so clear to me. But the body can influence the mind. We see that in the positioning. It can. It's clear. The body obviously influences the development of mind. We know that. The brain has to function. It has to be correct. And the correctness of the body can change the way in which mind works. It can. It certainly alters one of its primary roles, that is to control the life based on the memory. But it doesn't mean that mind stops being homogenized. I have a homogenized mind, like everybody else. It is connected to the world around me, which is a homogenized world. My passenger is not homogenized. It just watches mine. And my homogenized mind doesn't bother my life because it doesn't guide it. But it doesn't mean that it is free of this deep programming. It's not. How can it be? See, I don't care what my mind does, because it can't do anything in terms of, changing or altering the way in which I live. And I see what it does. I see the way in which it plays with this and that. I see the oddity of what memories stay and what memories don't. I'm a strategic mind. But there's nothing to do. I know that my uniqueness is very different from my mind. It's different. I can watch it. After all, if I didn't have a homogenized mind, how would we communicate with each other? Am I going to give you a unique language? I mean, I do my best to refine the language I use with you, but do you understand my point? We're all part of this program. I mean, this is the world. It comes out of us. We cannot tear it out. But then again, the personality is not here to be lost in this life. It isn't. I mean, everything about human, everything about what it is for us to be on this plane, everything about our development, everything about our movement has brought us to this time and this place in order to be able to fulfill uniqueness. See, I assume there's been a rotation throughout history, probably an ongoing spiral, where certain positions and certain orientations take dominance at certain times and then fade. Not that they're gone. They just operate in a subtly different way. Here we have our opportunity to live out this incredible moment. But you see, base theory for me is one of many ways in which I can more and more deeply illustrate the depth of the program. How different we must be. You know, we are the outsiders. We are the ones that are truly different. And of course you have to come to grips with that. You have to learn to see from that perspective. You have to see the depth of conditioning. And in that, because it is one of those beautiful attributes of mind, to be able to discern who on the road of your life that you meet, that you can share with the possibility of uniqueness. That each person that graces your life deserves your respect. It is the fractal line, the geometry, after all. I mean, our responsibility beyond ourselves is to one at a time. One other at a time. How profound that can be. You know, to take them for a moment out of the fog of the homogenized world. I can appreciate the mechanics at this level. I can see how it works. But I also live in what it is. The blindness, the ignorance, the pain, the suffering. I mean, Earth. Earth is not a nice place. It isn't. It is cruel and hard. Life for so many is so bitter. I mean, I see what all this leads to. And then I see the collective mind of the planet. You know, how it operates. And you just, you know, you sort of bow your head and you say, well, okay, what to do? I mean, what to do? You know, all of these human beings locked into their ideologies and their obsessions, and the armies of beings who all shout for blood at the same time, or all shout for peace at the same time. The indignities of life. You know, this is not what it was meant to be. In the sense that we can allow our time to come to an end in such a way. How vulgar, how unaesthetic. Millions of years evolving on the planet, and we end up in a rubble of our own garbage. No. As I said, I don't mind being on the conveyor belt of evolution. I grasp all that. But I am not going to close out this process in that way. This is the real light that can be offered. The light for us at the end of this tunnel is that fresh breath, that moment that you know that the program is something that's there, but it's not your life. It's not you. You are beyond it. You are outside of it. And yet at the same time, you are it. I guess it's the thunder and the lightning and the darkness of my studio this morning in the rain that I have this kind of tone. It's just, when I look at the mechanics, my black sense of humor comes out. I understand the dilemma of mind and uniqueness, It is a dilemma. And this is the final work of healing anyone who has gone through the process of entering into the experiment of their design and going along the deconditioning line, and eventually getting to this place where the last frontier is mind. It's mind. And it's the greatest challenge of all, is to find that place within you that can uniquely watch your collective mind, your homogenized mind. Quite something to ponder. Think about these graphs. We'll go through, obviously we're going to go through the rest of them, but this is a kind of image that, is very profound. It's one of the most powerful ones that I have in my collection. And I think it can be deeply inspiring for you. Just see the way things do meet and don't. And begin to see them in the context of yourself, others. Yeah, it's quite something to look at. Anyway, thunderous applause. Well, in the rain and all that. And to Zeus's great noise, I wish you all a good day and a correct one. And you take care. Until next week. Bye for now.